I think that if you were to use basketball slang to describe a failure in life, you should be kind to yourself and first define two kinds of failure. The first one comes in the shape of a so called air ball. If a player is throwing the ball and it flies the length of the court but still misses, it's an air ball. An air ball doesn't even come close to making it inside the basket. And the second one is a brick. The brick is still a failure, but it does a bit more than an air ball. It bounces off the rim or the backboard but still misses the basket. So let's be good with ourselves when we fail. After all, we can still build a house with all those bricks, right? Cheesy.
Okay, so a sport special today. So we have a, uh, an episode dedicated mostly to basketball, a bridge between Latvia and north of Italy. Today we have a very good friend of mine. Well, I don't have too many left, so probably. And we have Enrico, which has worked as the head of communication for for an Italian basketball team, the Benedetto Cento, and he has some insights for us to share regarding a particular Latvian player. How are you, Enrico, today?
I'm fine, thank you, and hello to everyone, to all the listeners of this famous podcast in all Europe. We can say, not only in in your country.
He's famous within these walls. And he's probably bothering the neighbors that don't even know that it exists, I presume. But maybe one day, let's see. So today we're going to try and attract the attention of those people in the house, maybe by providing a couple of insights regarding Latvian basketball. So before then, we can definitely give a bit of a scenario, um, pretty much. So in Latvia, basketball, we can consider it as the second most popular sport after ice hockey. Latvia has a long basketballing tradition. It also, particularly because he won the first European Championship in 1935, so during the first independence. So Latvia was independent, had declared a nation for the first time in 1918 up to 1940, and that period addressed as the time of peace in Latvian. Mieros Laikos. He was pretty active in basketball, and he hosted the second championship in 1937, and he won the first European championship in 1935. So basketball is definitely more popular than football in Lithuania and Latvia. The reason for this is mostly because both nations became European champions in the 30s. So that's why, Rico, when you probably noticed because you've been in Latvia before and you're always very much informed about the European sports, but we're not quite big in football yet. The successes in basketball continued in the 50s, throughout the 50s, so in the Soviet time. Even if during Soviet time, Latvia was more involved, probably because of the influence of Russia, was more involved with ice hockey since then. So the attention uh, maybe shifted a bit. Even if basketball was pretty active, but ice hockey kind of took a bit of a greater deal of attention. We can say that I mean, recently we had the Tokyo Olympics, and Latvia's men team defeated the Russian Olympic Committee, which is always great news in Latvia. What defeated Russian, and claimed its first ever Olympic gold medal in the three, I call it 3 versus 3, Enrico, but I don't know. Is this new 3 versus 3 basketball, right?
Yeah, right.
I think that's the best way. In terms of more recent events, I would say the Latvian Estonian Basketball League, the one that you were talking to me about. So the Latvian Estonian basketball team, which doesn't include Lithuania, the third Baltic states, is the highest basketball league in Latvia and Estonia. This league was established pretty recently when the two leagues merged together, and this kind of Latvian Estonian Basketball League was established in 2018. another news could be that on the 9th April of 2019, Ventspils, which is a city maybe almost 200 kilometers away from Riga on the Baltic coast, with his own team, won the first league championship, so 2 years ago. A couple of names just in the Olympus of Latvian basketball, national level, international level. I just noted down maybe the most important ones. From the very early 90s, the first Latvian professional basketball that played for the first time as a Latvian player in the NBA, so the American Basketball Association, was Gundars Vetra, that would have eventually became a coach, so he's got a good reputation. Most recently served as a coach in the Spartak St. Petersburg. I'm talking about it as if I'm an expert, but then we have the king of the, if I say Kristaps Porzingis, playing with Dallas Mavericks. He's got a reputation of a god in Latvia. He's probably one of the most famous players, and pretty young still, I think around 25 years old. I'm not too sure. We have the Bertans brothers, those Davis and Dairis, one of them playing for the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm not too sure if he's still playing there. And Davis playing for the Washington Wizards. And this is pretty much a very, very brief overview of, probably miserable compared to what an expert could provide to the podcast. This is a very quick overview. And this is what I can share with you regarding the place where I live in, so Latvia, in terms of basketball. But now we're moving to the area where you live and where you work, where basketball runs pretty deep, I would say. So we have a northern Italy, one of the biggest city where Enrico has around him is Bologna. And what kind of atmosphere in basketball can you breathe there?
Yeah, it's kind of a particular atmosphere, because I think everyone knows that Italy is quite centered, quite focused on football. Football is the national sport, and by a lot, I mean, if you look at a newspaper, sport newspaper, or like on TV, like on even social media, is almost all related about football, except like the moment when we have like Olympics or special situation where we also follow other sports, but mainly like the Sunday is the day of the football. But we also have other sports that we are also good in it. Sometimes it depends, and basketball is one of the sports that we follow more. Of course, second is always second compared to football. And the particular thing we have in this area, because I live near Bologna, is that basketball in Bologna is almost the main sport of the city and of the, we can say, hinterland, the whole area. The whole area that is close to Bologna is almost a million people there in the whole area, because Bologna is Bologna as a city is like 500,000, and the other 500 is that in the, like we can say, in the nearbys of the metropolitan city of Bologna. And here the basketball is the main sports. Like when in other parts of Italy, like you know, as a stereotype, when you have a child, like the boy is playing football and the girl is going to ballet, for instance, in Bologna, the boy is playing basketball, and it's kind of
the girl is still going to do ballet.
Yeah, of course, as a stereotype. No, talking as a stereotype, the girl is still doing ballet. But we also have like a female sports team and female basketball team, and at the age, I think 14, till the age of 14, they are playing in the same team, boys and girls, and then they are separated and they are following like male clubs and then female clubs since starting from 14 years old. But okay, I was talking about Bologna, that is particular in this, very particular. And the other thing that is quite unique in the, we can say, scenario of the basketball in Italy is that all the cities, the main cities, generally they have one team, one principal team of the city that is attracting, supporters, attracting sponsors, attracting money in the end, and the interest of the municipality and the governments and so on. Because as I said before, basketball is not so popular in Italy compared to football. So following this thing is easy to understand why generally there is not so space for two teams. Bologna is the exception, because we have nowadays like two teams in Serie A, and in the past we had other teams, and now in third division, but they were in second division some years before, there are other two teams. So the area of Bologna is having like in this moment 5 teams looking at the first, second, and third division, and these things is quite unique too. If you think that we are talking about 1 million people, and in Italy we have 60 million people. So compared to the dimension of Italy and the population, you can understand why this area is called Basket City. We don't say basketball in Italy, we call it basket, the shortened version. The Italian is pallacanestro, but it's quite common to talk about basket in Italy, and that's why Basket City is so particular. And we have this long rivalry between the two main teams, as I said before, that are Virtus Bologna and Fortitudo Bologna. And this kind of rivalry is something we can see in Italy only in football. If we think about, I don't know, like AC Milan and Internazionale, or Lazio and Roma, the same city of Rome, or Genoa and Sampdoria in the city of Genoa. And we have this thing in Bologna, and the supporters are very strong and very passionate about their teams. And of course, there were also some problems in the past. Nowadays, the situation is, we can say, more relaxed. But when we talk about il derby, that is the derby, when they are following, when they are facing each other, the two teams, we say that sometimes that match worth more than a season, because you can have a bad season, but if you win that derby, if you win that match, is more important, and sometimes you remember more that win instead of the whole season, because it's something that it starts like with the gags, with the memes and so on between the two supporters sides. It starts from the beginning of the season and then goes on and on and on. And in the past, Fortitudo and Virtus were able to battle for the Italian championships. And there were a moment between the end of the 90s and the beginning of the year 2000s where the two teams were very good also in Europe. So they were battling also for good position and good results in all over Europe. And they had players very famous that were then going to NBA or maybe coming from NBA. So was like a moment where Basket City wasn't only in the center of Italy, but also also part of, of the main system of basketball in Europe.
I'll ask you a quick question, because I'm curious about that. Like, football fans traditionally, they can become quite passionate or even aggressive traditionally.
Yeah.
Football. I always imagine basketball supporters and fans way more moderate than football. Is it just my perception, or traditionally?
Yeah, as you said, is more relaxed than compared to football. Compared to football fans, I can say that in all Italy, the situation compared to football is much better. This unfortunately doesn't mean that there is no violence, because sometimes there is, and there are some like as you know, the curva, so the supporter area in the Palasport.
So yeah, so that section of the stands, yes, which is pretty violent. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So there are quite sometimes I don't know how to say in English. Now I'm looking for the like fringe. Is it correct?
Fringes, yes.
Yeah. So some of them are violent, and some of them are related to politics also. But because as I said before, the numbers are not so big. So in the end, we're talking about some maybe like I don't know, like sometimes only 30, 40, 50 persons in the end. So we're not talking about a lot, but it's not uncommon to see the Italian name is DASPO, and in the end is a sort of I don't know how to say, something that from the law, the measure from the law that doesn't allow you to be in following a sports match for like could be like I think 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It depends on what you did, and it's not uncommon to see something like this to supporters also of Fortitude and Virtus, because you know the big team, a lot of supporters, and then sometimes someone is is a little bit as we said before, more relaxed in a in a very polite way. And but generally if you compare as I said before, basketball to football is so much better on this side. Of course, I'm not comparing the sport in the
I see. Well, your relationship with basketball has been lately pretty intense, because you have been the head of communication of one important basketball team, the Benedetto Cento. So you had a very tight relationship with the team, and you were able to see what was going on in it, probably get more confident with the history, even if Cento is the place where you grew up, which is a town not too far from Bologna. So you happen to work as a head of communication for a basketball team that you were definitely acquainted even when you were younger. So I presume, and so you got into it, and tell us a bit more. What did you happen to see? You happened to find out actually that one of the players, Richard Kuksic, was actually part of the born in Riga, was actually part of the Benedetto Cento for a while.
Yeah. Well, I must say something before about Cento, because Cento has a long history as a little city. And Cento is not part of the Bologna metropolitan city only for historical reasons that I could talk a whole podcast about, but there's no time. And today we're talking about basketball, so I will not talk a lot about
We're just going to accept that it's part of Ferrara. We will have to accept that today.
Okay. We're fine. Deal. But I wanted to say this because Cento is.
But apologies, Enrico. Let's explain very quickly. I made a joke because I provoked you, and I said, so by law, or like up to code, Cento belongs to the province of Ferrara, which is another town in Emilia-Romagna. But Enrico doesn't like that too much, because why? Tell us why. I mean, few words. Come on.
Well, because historically, Cento had to be part of the Bologna province and not of the Ferrara. But a pope, a long time ago, gave as a gift the whole city of Cento to to his daughter that was marrying Prince of Ferrara, we can say very easily. So then, since that time, Cento is part of the Ferrara province, but we don't belong to them. Talking about traditions, talking about accent, talking about a lot of things. And today, like for instance, the starting of the telephone number of Cento is the same as Bologna. And talking about Catholic Church, we are part of the division of Bologna and not the one of Ferrara. So that's why we always we feel everyone part of the Bologna province, of the Bologna metropolitan city. So even because we are really close, we are really similar in basketball, and that's why Cento is called a little basket city.
So this is just to give an idea to everyone how normal it was that the aristocracy would get some people and give them away as a gift.
Yeah,
to an area that doesn't have anything to do with them, at least historically. And these feelings survive up to 2021 because they definitely, Enrico was listening to the story maybe from his dad was listening. Apart from the Wikipedia thing that we can all find out, these passions are in people from Cento regarding Ferrara from ages, probably. They're all like, they just get inherited from father to son, I would say, right?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes someone, also politician, is coming up on newspapers saying, okay, we must do a referendum in order to choose to be part of Bologna area and not of the Ferrara area. And it's like a thing that we can...
But it's also...
yeah,
it's also fair to say that it has almost a playful allure, in the sense that clearly I know Enrico very well, and I know that this is something that is more like a color of his ideas, but is not really that important. I might be wrong when I say that.
I agree. In the end, it's like more talking about color, because
traditions, maybe.
Being part of a province or another doesn't change a lot in the end. It could change something in order about sometimes politics, about economics, about choices and direction of like money or choice you can do, but like in your everyday life, it doesn't change almost anything.
Well, let's go back to basketball. So we're going back to Cento.
Yeah, Cento, this little basket city, when the team was born in 1964, and it started in the backyard of a church. Actually, started as a church team, and then year by year it became bigger and bigger, and in 2008 reached for the first time in history, after a lot of attempts during the years, and the second division. I work for a digital agency, for a digital web agency, so we're involved in activity of marketing, of digital, social media, and so on. And we already had a collaboration with the team during the previous season, the season where we won this Final Four, and then we had this promotion. And after that, and the funny thing is that I was in Riga with my friends for a holiday, and I received an audio message on WhatsApp, like a 10 minutes long sort of album, more than a message. And my colleague told me that the board of the team wanted us for marketing and communication, and they wanted me as a head of communication. And I was in that holiday. Yeah,
Apologies. What are the duties of a head of communication? The main ones.
Okay, the main one, always like being reachable, I can say, like from 7 a.m. till midnight, somehow being ready to do a press release and to follow the whole communication of the team. So you have like one layer that is the communication, like I can say daily, but it's more like hour. So being on social, so knowing what's happening, because nowadays, you know, your team doesn't live only in the 40 minutes on the playground. Your team is always up, like on social, on conversation, on and comments and likes and so on. So one side is always being like on focus on what's happening there, and the other to planning the strategies with the marketing department, the strategies to do like events to prepare what's gonna happen the day of the match and so on. So you always work on like two layers, so not only by yourself, but of course with all your team and all the duties that are divided by the people that is involved in these activities. So this is as a sort of summary, we can say.
And that you still retain that position, or you stop the collaboration, or you
yeah, I stopped. I left in October of 2021, so 3 months, 4 months ago, we can say. But I stayed there in the end for more than 3 years.
So what are this first-hand opinion collected by no less than the head of communication of the Benedetto Cento regarding a Riga-born player, Richard Kuksic? What are the rumors? What are the trivial, the scores? What is the
yeah, we can say the background. We can talk about the background of the season, just to understand better which was the situation when Kuksic joined the club. The season started really good for the team, because we reached the third position, and it was totally unexpected, because at the beginning we were like planning to we say in Italy salvezza, so to save the team from the relegation. And so the start was really good, but suddenly we lose a lot of matches, and apparently with a lot of unlucky, and we couldn't understand the reason why. So on one side we were unlucky in a lot of situations, but on the other side we realized that we had to play in San Lazzaro di Savena, that is we can say suburb of Bologna, because the field of Cento, the Palasport, wasn't ready to play, wasn't ready for the second division. So we started the rebuilding of it, a long reconstruction, we can say. So it wasn't ready, and the people had to reach this new Palasport that was 45 minutes far from the old one. So it's not a long distance if you think about the distance of the big cities, but for a little city as Cento, when the people used to join the you used to go to see the match like going by walk, like going by bicycle, or you know, leaving the moment after the match, like going walk in the city center for aperitivo, or to have dinner in the center of the city. So this was a big change. So we lost a lot of supporters in that season, even if it was the highest point of the history of the club. And this is one thing that happened a lot of times in other clubs in Italy. This kind of, when you move, your field is difficult to have all your supporters that are following for that season.
Do you also lose somehow the geography? With the geography, you lose a bit of the heart of the supporters, right? Because there's a history, maybe in the borough where maybe people that used to live in the area used to go there. So you lose a bit of the tradition, and it becomes a bit weird. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. This is like the one of the reasons of the problems of that season. And the other was, we can say now that maybe the board hadn't a lot of experience, because it was the first time in second division. So they did some choices that were a little bit wrong, we can say now. For instance, the team was planned like sort of, I don't know how to say, we have in Italy this famous game that is fantacalcio, fantasy football. So so and it was, we have the version for fantasy basketball. So sometimes we say that was a team built up by like a fantasy basketball logic. Like in the end, you try to put together a lot of players, maybe good players with a good season on their back, but in the end, all together weren't able to do their best. Even the coach that was really good, that did 4 promotions from third division to second division. Maybe in second division with a team with a club that was for the first time there, had a lot of I don't know to say, weren't able in the end to manage all these situations, compared to the fact that the team had to train also in another gym that wasn't in Cento, but was like 20 minutes far from Cento. And so the players felt this kind of thing where in other clubs, like they all train in the same place. That is the same place where they have the match, the game on Sunday, and they felt, okay, we are training there, and then we go play there, and then sometimes they also train in a third place. So it's kind of difficult to find your, I don't know to say, your feeling for players that are sometimes are looking at the centimeters or looking at the different areas in the parquet, in the playground, with the taking like I don't know, say reference between like signs on the ground, or lights, or is when we talk about this kind of players, we must think about players that we are very, I don't know to say, trained, and at that level, these kind of changes are reflecting a lot on their performance.
Absolutely, and but also with the paradox of how fast is the communication on the social media. So there's a bit of a paradox, because you got a bunch of fans that are participating through social media. Distances stop existing, but at the same time, funnily, the basketball team is moving from one place to another. So it's a bit preposterous in this sense. Yes, but go ahead, please.
Yeah. And in that season, the main star was James White. That is a name that maybe some basketball fans will recognize. He was champion with in NBA with San Antonio in 2007, and he was the best scorer in Serie A in Italy in 2011. He joined the slam dunk contest of NBA in 2013. So he was the big star for Cento, and he played all over Europe. And he joined Cento, as and it was this kind of big promise, like, okay, I will rise you up, I will do my best, and I'll be the best one. And he did some games really good, but he had an injury in the back at the beginning of 2019. So the moment when we had to, after a couple of unlucky games, we had to rise up again. We find out, and not the only one, but our best player was injured for like 2 months or more than 2 months, and it was something that was really changing the season, because in only 2 months we had to play like 10 games, so it was like a lot of points that we already knew we weren't able to catch. So at the moment, everyone was like crying in the main square of Cento, like saying, "Okay, we will be relegated. We will lose the season. Everything is over." Okay, and the sporting director at the time decided to look for a substitute, and then he decided to ask for Richard Kuksix. Even if, and this is the funny story, the man who traded the arrival of Kuksix was the following sporting director. And in the moment we signed the Kuksix, the previous sporting director was fired, and we hired that sporting director that in the end told us lately, a lot of months later then, okay, I made you sign the Kuksix, but I didn't want Kuksix as a player, not because I think that that is not a good player. It is a good player, but I don't think is the right man for this moment in Cento. So when he joined Cento as a sporting director, the first thing he asked was, "Okay, did you in the end sign Kuksix? Are we sure?" And yeah, we did. Okay.
Did the Cookses know that? Did he know all this? The players?
I don't know.
If the Cookses, you're listening to us, please get in touch and tell us if you were surprised to find out that the director thought you were a good player, but not adapt for this. Let us know. Write us a comment. We want to know. Go ahead, Enrico.
Okay, well, this season reminds me for a lot of details. The first season of Sunderland Till I Die, a series about football, about a really disaster. That is talking about one season of Sunderland Football Club in England, okay. In I think is first division. Mm-hmm. And a series that I'm really giving you an advice. Watch it, because it's very beautiful and it tells in a very good way the chronicles of this disaster. And that's what's happened. What is happening in Cento in that season. So we had this press conference, and I didn't see Kuksix before. And in this press conference, we announced at the same time a new coach, a new sporting director, this one, as I told you before, and the new player that was Richard Kuksix, that was announced like the big star, because he played in Serie A in Italy, also in Pesaro, in Varese, that are very good teams with a lot of.
Serie A is the top, right?
Yeah,
in Italy.
yeah. We were in the Serie A2. That is the second
step
division.
Before, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw him for the first time, and I said, "Hello, how you doing?" He was really like looking like someone that was I don't know, woke up 5 minutes before, and actually he told me, "Yeah, I woke up. I just woke up now," and it was 3 p.m. in the afternoon. But I can understand, because he had to fly from. He was playing in Greek second division, so right. he had like a transfer very, very quick, and maybe too much quick, because in the end we weren't able to made him debut in the next game, because the papers weren't ready in the end, and not for a problem by Cento, by the Greek side. And yeah, for once in that season, it wasn't our fault for once.
It was the Greek fault. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of what kind of player is he? Like, what are his features? Is it?
Well, this is we can say the main problem, because we choose him as a shooter, and in that press conference he said, I'm a 3-point shooter, and then the supporters joked a lot about this sentence. Because in the end, he wasn't very good by 3 points in that season, because he always had been in his career, and he still is very good by 3 points.
So is it fair to say that regarding Kuksix, which we're not, by the way, trying to undermine in any sort of way, but that Italian season is not the one that shines the most in his career, because but we have a bunch of them. We got Greece, we have Series A in Italy, we have any time spent in the US as well. I don't remember, something maybe, no?
I don't think so, but he played in a lot of championships about Europe.
He has a good CV as a player. You can't deny that, right?
Of course.
There was a problem with that season in particular. So this season was almost under a spell, I would say. As you said, kind of disastrous, a bit like Sunderland Till I Die. That has to do with football. And it was very difficult to rely on one particular player. So tell us more.
Of course. And the coach in another press conference after a game that we lost, as a lot of games in that season, told to the press. Someone was asking why didn't play very, very good in that game, and he replied, Kuksix came from Greek second division. Have you watched it? and the journalist said, no. Okay, so you didn't watch that game in Greece. I will tell you. The rhythm is very low. I mean, very low. So when he joined our team, we had to train him to take back his rhythm, and it took him a lot of time and a lot of efforts. And in the end, if you focus too much on recovering your speed, your rhythm, in the end you focus less on other things, and that's why in the end it wasn't the player we expected. But I think that a lot of people, in particular the supporters, expected sort of the player that is able to save you the whole season, and he wasn't in that moment. And but maybe no one could be that kind of player, as you said before. It was a season that couldn't save even James White. I think that of course, if he hadn't this injury, he could have played better even when he recovered and he came back. But it's a kind of season you cannot relate on one single match or on one single player. It was also, I don't want to say a disaster, but it's a whole thing that wasn't wrong in the end.
Absolutely. And also there is in terms of perception with many sports, but probably with basketball as well, maybe the foreigner traditionally is always seen like someone that's supposed to give more, maybe, right? Is it fair to say or no?
Yeah. And especially
there is a higher expectation only because someone is a foreigner.
Yeah, but there is also a technical reason, we can say, because in second division you have a limit for 2 players coming considered not Italian. So because you can have a foreign player, but if he did 4 years in an Italian academy, he is considered as an Italian. So you have like two slots for players outside Italy, and Kuksix was taken to take place in one of these two slots that was left free by James White. So the expectation are foreign players that in Italian we usually call them Americans, even if sometimes they are not from USA, of course.
Even if they're not.
But you know, this is coming from the tradition of the 50s, 60s, and 70s when the USA was ruling the world about basketball. But in the end, nowadays, not. Of course, USA is always the main country, we can say, but also we have a lot of players very good also in Europe that are able to join the second division in Italy. So the expectation were really high for that reason, and also because we knew that players from the Baltic countries are good, because of course Lithuania is like the main country in this if we talk about basketball. But some people were also, some supporters, you know, were also able to recognize his country. So we they said like, oh, come on, the Lithuanian is is not so good. And okay, he's not Lithuanian, he's Latvian. And we had to like to correct also on social media sometimes all the comments about the.
We have to spend a couple of words about that. Absolutely, we many a time us Italians, me included, probably not you, Enrico. We've been before we got to be more confident with geography. We were really confused, but also because the funny thing is that we got 3 Baltic states, right? We got Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. In the order, we got Lithuania, then on top of it, Latvia, and then Estonia. Funnily, in Italian, we address Lithuania and Estonia in the same way that they address it in English to start with, okay? So we can associate them. But a lot of embarrassing situations that are totally our fault happened when we found out that Lithuania was actually Latvia. So also in that situation, we kind of showed our true colors with that. And it's interesting to see a supporter that gets upset at a player and shows his purest ignorance. But like, oh, the guy is not Lithuanian; he's actually Latvian. Ah, okay.
Yeah, well, but unfortunately, as you know, we have a lot of I don't know to say fails on geography or like holes in the and about geography about all over Europe, and unfortunately, Latvia is one of the country we don't know a lot.
Yes, and it creates these situations, and you know, it's interesting to see what happens. But right, so go ahead.
Yeah, and so in the end, James White, the ex-NBA player, came back and tried to save the season, and but in the end we were relegated. We went through play out, and we lost in the semifinals, so not even the final, and we were relegated back to third division. And in the end, Rickard Kuksix was part of this I don't know how to say, of this whole process that so our team came back from the division that we were the previous year. And then he came back to Latvia. So unfortunately, this is an unlucky, I don't know how to say, an unlucky moment of his career. And I'm totally sure that, and also other people of the staff agrees with me, that he came in Cento in the wrong moment. I don't know if the wrong moment of Cento, of the wrong moment of his career too. I don't know. By the way, he always were good in trainings, and he told me a lot of people. Yeah, I did it as a press officer and head of communication. I wasn't at all the trainings, but I followed only part of them. And the staff that was following all the trainings told me that in trainings was really good, and he was really a 3-point shooter, and he was making like points one by another. But during matches, is different on Sunday. Yeah, because sometimes there are a lot of valuables of things that could that can be done wrong. I don't know to say, and he was like that. But he was a funny guy, really, and very nice, very. Even when we asked him for for the press, for social media, we did some activities, and it was really I think also good character, we can say. So if he's if we were only if his season was better in terms of insights, like points and rebounds and so on, everything, we could spend him better on social media. But in the end, when we saw that we were losing matches, and he was kind of I don't know to say, like the one to blame for the supporters, even if of course we know that he wasn't the one to blame, but for the supporters he became this sort of symbol of this. We decided as a communication team not to invest on him, in order not to give space to this kind of feeling, because if someone is seen as the one to blame, you must you can do two things. One is hide him, and the other try to convince them that he is not. But it was a big effort to do when you are losing matches, and it's something difficult to do in that moment. So you prefer to focus on the things that are good, and unfortunately he wasn't doing good in that moment. But he was really nice person. I don't know if he's maybe he's listening to this podcast. I say hello to him, and I'm hope that he had then a good comeback in Latvia with a good results in his career.
I'm sure. And also, Richard, listening to these funny Italians over here, we are also, I'm also using your name to get to know a bit more about basketball, and I'm really impressed with your CV. I mean, no, sorry, I'm really impressed with your career. I just, every time that I put Kuksix on Google, I find out Novgorod, I find out Greece, I have so many places, and so he's really made his bones in basketball, and sometimes it's just the way it is, right? They call it just a fluke. It's just the live moment. Something happens. It's just destiny that he has to go like that. And but it's part of many sports, and it's part of life, actually. Right. So you wanted to talk to me also about there is a connection with the Estonian Latvian league, another basketball player. What was the name again? I don't remember.
Yeah, this player is Mick Jurkatam, that played in Cento last season, and he has a very interesting career, because he was part of the Virtus Bologna Academy, as I told you, talking about Italian academy and Basket City in Bologna. And so for this reason is considered Italian in terms of sport. So you don't have like the Italian citizenship as a normal citizen, but in basketball you are considered Italian, so you don't take place in the slots of foreign people, as I said before. And after being part of the Virtus Bologna Academy. He joined Ravenna Basket, that is another good team in second division. And then he joined NCAA. I'm sorry, I don't remember the team, but NCAA is the college championship in USA. So like the championship just before NBA in terms of developing of your career. So when you're a youngster, you start from NCAA, and then if you're good enough, you join then NBA. He wasn't able to play there, I think, for something about the rules, because he played as a professionist in Italy, and then I think that if you played as a pro before, you cannot play in NCAA. You know, in USA, you have a lot of rules about you know, being pro, being in a college, being a lot of you know, like walls, we can say, for this. And I mean, in the USA system, they have a reason why for this. In Europe is different. So sometimes when you move from a championship to another, you find some difficulties, like happened to Mick. And then he joined Cento. And when he joined Cento last season, in the end, it was like 12 months that wasn't playing, because we had then the coronavirus stop before, and then this stop in NCAA. So he had to work a lot in order to be in good shape to play in the second division last year. But he did very good, because in a couple of games he was really important, and he helped to reach the highest level of the Cento team, because after that season that we talked before with Cook6, we came back again in second division, and last year we, in the end, we were I don't remember if 8th or 9th place, 8th, I think, of the of our group. There was the highest point of the club in the whole history, and like for only one loss, we didn't join the playoff. And so and Mick Jurkatan was really helpful, especially in the last games, when, you know, we had a lot of injuries last season. I think in a lot of sports, not only basketball and not only in Italy, the COVID-19 generated a lot of problems and a lot of situations that were unique, like, so where the coaches, where the staff, where the players weren't ready for all these situations, for all these kind of new things. So in that moment, we needed a lot of young players, good, that were able to I don't know to say, to do their best efforts in this kind of situation, very difficult. And he did. He played very good. And at the end of the season, I know that the board, the sporting director, want to keep him, but I know that he didn't want to. He wanted to come back to Estonia, because he is from Tallinn and he wanted to come back. And he did the first part of this season there. And breaking news of these days while we are recording, he came back to Italy in Serie A. So now he will join Treviso, that is a very famous club in Italy, in Serie A. So now he's coming back in Italy. And that's why my history, my the history about Mick Jurkatan, different personality from talking about also different players, talking if you compare him to Cook6, like I can say a little bit shy, a little bit silent, doesn't talk too much, even on the WhatsApp messages. You know, when you work as a press officer, sometimes you send messages on WhatsApp to the players or to the staff to be faster in the communication. Like, okay, tomorrow the journalist or the newspaper will ask for you at 5 p.m. Will you be there? Okay, and that's it. No more. So very focused and a very serious player. But also different age, because he's from 2000 and Cooks is from 1988. So we're talking about two different generations.
Of course. But also we can definitely compliment the considering that the Baltic states, so Estonia and two of them, and Latvia in this conversation, they definitely have feelings of brotherhood between each other. So if we were not lucky enough or to get the help that maybe we were expecting too much from him, from Kuksix, in that unlucky season of 2019, right? We got some help from the neighbors, right, from the Estonians, but also
yeah, somehow we can say we made peace with the Baltics.
Yeah, and of course, clearly, but there is I mean, living in Latvia, to say there is generally speaking, a good atmosphere, a good relationship between the three states. They're good neighbors, I would say. And what I wanted to tell you, I just remember those days when you used to work as a head of communication, and sometimes we would call each other. And my goodness, I remember COVID was a mess, and still is. But in those days, was a mess personally also for you, because I was so much like, I remember one day we were talking about, I had to do the PCR. I was going back to Italy to do the swab. And and I just said, I'm kind of complaining because I have to go and do it once. I was a bit annoyed by it. But then I thought about you, that in those days of matches and the season, in order to be able to carry on with your job, you were supposed to do it like once a week. How often, Enrico? You were supposed to do the PCR?
Yeah, at least once a week, but we also did like 3 in a week sometimes. And we felt like, I don't know, like we are somehow feeling nowadays, but at that time we haven't vaccine.
Yeah, of course.
So you always felt like, I don't know, close to something, and at the same time you were living only for like basketball. I mean, okay, I had, as I told you before, also my job as a digital specialist for this digital web agency company, but it was a job that I could do mainly by home. So it was mainly work from home in that moment. And in that moment, with a lot of restriction in Italy, so it was the only reason for what we could go. We could go outside our city, and we could travel. We could be part of the team traveling by bus and traveling world Italy. And it was all the time these PCR tests and following the results, and sometimes or everyone being scared by the result, by some positivity. We have some situation about positivities, and then isolations and so on. And at some point it wasn't more about COVID than about basketball, and it was kind of hard thinking about basketball when you had this kind of situation for a whole season. And usually players in Italy are playing, like as I told you before, on Sunday, like every 7 days. And on that season we had to play, we had like long stops for like 30-40 days, and then we have to play like every 3 days, like they do like in NBA finals. But maybe in NBA finals they have like, I don't know, a lot of players, and they are trained for that, and all the season is focused on that, is the goal of the season. And we weren't ready for that. The supporters weren't ready because they couldn't being there at the basketball field. They had to follow by streaming the whole season by home, so they couldn't support there. There were a lot of income less by the supporters that weren't there, that for instance they bought less merchandising because they hadn't the moments to show the merchandise, because like you buy one sweater, you buy a scarf, you buy something, because then you go out and you show to others, but you were at home the whole day, so you have no one to show that, except for, I don't know, like video calls on the internet. So it was really strong season, and we, in the end, we were happy to do the highest point of the club, the highest result on a season like that.
And I'm going to take advantage before we finish, just because we're going to have, what is it, the 12th of January 2022. So maybe for whoever is listening to us, we can segue from, with the excuse of COVID, from basketball to your perception of how's it going in Italy at the moment. But in Latvia, very quickly, the morbidity of the virus is keeping somehow steady. There are some restriction in place still. The hospital are full as usual. Somehow there is a perception of, at least personally, I perceive maybe the press is not talking about records anymore, or approaching the problem with spectacular statements as we saw in autumn. So the problem is still out there. We got the latest mutations. I don't want to, Omicron. Now we got the latest one. I presume the name is, what is it? The very latest one. I can't remember, but we definitely got some Omicron over here. And this is the atmosphere. We're getting more and more accustomed to try to spend our life indoors. It's probably been easier during winter, I would say. In spring, we're probably going to go mad because of the long stay at home. How do you feel? What is the situation in Italy? What is your perception? We're talking about north of Italy, Cento, not too far away from Bologna. Actually, yes. Sorry, go ahead. What is your perception? What is the situation?
Well, I can talk about here, but almost I can say that the situation is also like in southern and central Italy is not very different from here. Thank God, I can say we had a lot of jobs, a lot of vaccines, a lot of doses. I don't know to say, a lot of steps of this. So we came to the third dose for a lot of people right now. Not all the people, and I think that 90% or almost 90% of the population had still one, we can say, protection. So, or they got COVID before, or they had at least one jab of the vaccine. So this is why at the moment the situation is not so bad on one side, because we are starting having some problems in the hospital, because we divided the regions of Italy in, we can say, 4 layers, like in terms of by colors. So like white, it means that, okay, we have COVID, but the situation is fine. Yellow, then okay, we must starting to look after the situation, and then orange, and okay, the situation starts to be quite problematic, and then red, it means that we will have a lot of problems, and then maybe we weren't able to cure all the people that needs a cure. And in this moment, we have some region white, others yellow, and one maybe will be orange from next week. So the situation is not so bad, but at the same time, not so good. And the majority of the people in hospital is, in terms of, I don't know, percentage, is people that hadn't a dose of vaccine. And so we can say that the 10% of people in Italy that decided not to trust in this solution is causing the majority of problems in hospital, because statistics insights said clearly and tells clearly that if everyone had the vaccine, we wouldn't have this problem in hospitals. But this is not the reality. So this 10% of people that decide to do differently is causing, at the moment, this situation. On the other side, one thing that is happening, I think, due to Omicron, is that a lot of people is being positive, is starting to be positive to COVID-19 with the Omicron variant. And they are not feeling sick. Sometimes I think 80% more or less, and they don't have like symptoms, so they are fine. But maybe they test and the test say they are positive, but they are fine. But they had to stay isolated, so they stay at home. And this is starting to cause, I think that we are like 2 millions on 60 millions. So if you think about the percentage, it's like starting to be 6%, 7% of the population that stays at home and couldn't go to work. And we are starting to see problems in factories, in restaurants, in all kind of working productions, and I think starting to affect the world societies, because we have like less trains, less buses, and so on. So this is starting to be a problem. And in the last weeks, the government decided to like give a sort of wild card to like go out, like if you have the third dose of vaccine and you don't have symptom and you find yourself negative, you don't have to stay 7 days at home just to wait to be fine. You can go out wearing FFP2 mask, but you can go out, you can do your life normally. You only have this obliged to wear this kind of mask that, as we know, is more protecting than the others. And this was done in order to let the people, work somehow and to participate to our social life, because this was, as I said before, was starting to be a really good problem. So nowadays the problem is like, I don't know, like dividing these two sides. So one, maybe we will be able to solve with the last decision of the government. For the other, I don't know what they have in their minds, because if we don't have places in hospital, and I think that we will go on having less places in hospital. Last thing that happened, like a couple of days ago, we put this obligation, oblige, I don't know to say, for people that is older than 50 years old. They must do vaccine. But if what happened? what's going to happen if they decide not to go into vaccine themselves? They have a fine about like €100, and
It's okay.
If you think that they spend maybe hundred of euros to go to work to do PCR test,
Yeah.
€100 is like, who cares if I don't want to?
Yeah.
So doesn't
Okay.
seem something. But maybe in the future we will do sort of super green pass will be required also to go to work. So maybe in February this will be the sort of try. I don't know to say the solution or just a try, but just an attempt. I don't know. We will see.
Well, hopefully everything's going to be all right. I mean, it's just one of those things you have like, we're getting always more and more, with this thing is lasting very long. I'm starting to imagine particular scenarios such as all these variables of the virus will become part of our fashion almost, I guess. At some point we'll get to Meta, no Facebook anymore apparently, and we're just gonna have like Enrico Atti had Omicron in the past. Fabrizio had the first Delta, almost like it's going to be part of some sort of. We're going to wear these viruses if we survive. Probably but it's just a weird thought. But
we hope, because it's also starting to affect also sports. Where we talked
Yeah.
about basketball today, and so I don't know what's happening there. I'm following a little bit Premier League in football in England, and some matches has been postponed. Also in football in Italy, and also in basketball. So it's starting again to affect our sports and part of our social life in the end, because sports is not only a game, is not only a business, is not only I don't know how to say, is a quite big component of our society. And when things are affecting sports, sport are affecting also our life in a lot of levels in the end.
Thank you, Enrico, for having joined this 9th episode of the Kūla podcast, where it's pretty much like a sport and COVID-19 special. I will say goodbye to you and thank you for having participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you to all of you that listen to me. I'm sorry for my English, because I'm not talking a lot in English nowadays. Also, because I'm not anymore the head of communication of Veneto, so I don't have the opportunity to talk with English with the two foreign players. But I'm saying hello to everyone, especially to the people I talked about that season of basketball. And I think that maybe one day I could write a book about it, because there's a lot of to talk about and a lot of situation, good and less good, and beautiful and funny and so on. But I will always be thankful to the people of the season, because I learned a lot, not only about sport, but also about life somehow, because it was a kind of big experience. And of course, thank you to all of you that listen to me in these really long talks about basketball and so on. So thank you, and
thank you very much.
Go on, follow this podcast. Click subscribe on YouTube and follow Fabrizio Marsante on Facebook.
Ciao, grazie Enrico. Thank you.
Ciao, grazie a voi.